Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about some of the news that actually dropped yesterday, and that is regarding Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, and we may be getting some fan favorite characters actually crossing over onto the final season here of Fear the Walking Dead. So let's break down everything that we learned yesterday. So before we go any further, definitely hit subscribe if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Fear the Walking Dead is premiering in, I guess a little over 2 weeks now, because I know the official premiere date is May 14th, but if you have AMC Plus, you can actually watch it on May 11th, which is when I'm going to be posting my review of the episode. And that's a Thursday, I believe, which is basically 2 weeks this Thursday. So, yeah, the final season's beginning right away, and there's only 12 episodes. It's not going to be 16. So they're going to be getting into a lot of stuff here. There's not going to be a lot of filler. They're really just going to get into a lot of fun stuff right away with the story here. And apparently there's going to be some fan favorite characters that are crossing over onto this. So I want to talk about that. Also, if you haven't followed me on Twitch yet, definitely go do so. My channel name is Appetite for the Dead. The link should be in the description. Now, I saw this article here from CBR.com, so I'll leave a link down below to the article if you want to check out the whole thing here. But apparently this interview was done with one of the showrunners, Andrew Chambliss, and he actually talked about the final season. He was speaking with SFX magazine, and the course of the story will bring all those characters back together, and maybe even a few familiar faces. We wanted to, as best we could with the real estate we have, try to give everyone a real satisfying conclusion. We wanted to try and make it feel like we weren't leaving anyone out in the cold. Now, obviously in the article here, they do actually talk about Morgan, and they talk about Lenny James's comments regarding Morgan's fate. I'll do a video on that next, because Lenny James does give some pretty cryptic comments there that makes me question whether or not Morgan's actually going to be dying here in this last season. But going back to what was said, it seems like this story here is going to bring all those characters back together. It's probably going to, in that sense, he's likely referring to the fact that Madison and Daniel and Strand and everyone is sort of everywhere, but bringing them all back together, having that reunion, that's definitely going to be really cool. It's going to feel a lot like season 1, season 2. So I'm definitely kind of excited to see how that works. But he also mentions maybe even a few other familiar faces. And so when I hear that right there, to me, that really does tell me that Fear the Walking Dead is ending, I think, with them going to Alexandria or to the Commonwealth or something like that. Like, I'm trying to think of how else you could end the story, and I really feel like that is the best way to end it. Because again, the Commonwealth is a very massive place, right? There's 50,000 people there, and I think it makes perfect sense to end the story in that way, considering everyone right now on Fear the Walking Dead, they don't really have a place to stay. Yes, there's Padre, but apparently Padre is, what? Do they just do the exact same storyline as The Walking Dead did with the Commonwealth? Like, they just basically take over the Commonwealth and then use their resources, and now they're definitely very safe, right? Are they going to do the same thing with Padre? Just take over Padre, and then now they have this massive place to live in sort of thing? I don't think so. I really feel like Padre is probably just going to be something that really gets forgotten, I think. And I think, maybe some characters stay behind, or maybe there's something worked out there, but I do think a lot of the characters are going to be going to Alexandria. I feel like that is going to be something that, for fans anyways, we are going to feel like that is a perfect ending for Morgan's story. Because I've been trying to think about, how do you end Morgan's story? Do you end it with him dying? I don't think you really can, just because I think Morgan as a character, you want him to be around for a lot longer. You want Lenny James and Andrew Lincoln to eventually work together at some point, right? Like, you do want to see that. And so I just don't think Morgan's death really makes too much sense for this show. I definitely think it would be something that, especially for this show, would really hurt Morgan's character, because Morgan's an original Walking Dead character. For him to die on the spinoff, yeah, it's the finale, and they can make it really epic and grand, but it's still, I don't know, that character deserves to die on The Walking Dead, or not even necessarily The Walking Dead, but he deserves to die with some of those original characters around, right? And obviously here, there's no original characters around, besides maybe Dwight. Dwight was from The Walking Dead, but still. So I think Morgan is likely going to survive. I do think he's going to survive, and he could just become a leader of a place over there, but we've already sort of gotten a story like that in season 6. To me, it makes sense that it's going to end with him going back home, because it sort of began with him running away, and now he's going back, right? I think that makes so much sense. And so when you look at his comments here, like Andrew Chambliss's comments here about the final season, he does say that, again, to read the quote, the course of the story will bring all those characters back together and maybe even a few other familiar faces. We wanted to, as best we could with the real estate we have, try to give everyone a real satisfying conclusion. We wanted to try and make it feel like we weren't leaving anyone out in the cold. So to me, that really says that Morgan likely returns to Alexandria, which I guess is technically now the Commonwealth, right? And I guess we might see a few other familiar faces. Like, say he shows up to the gates there, we might see Aaron. We might see, Carol would be really cool, definitely, because obviously Morgan and Carol always had that very special bond, right? So I think Morgan returning back home to see Carol there, man, that would be really cool. That would be really nice. And obviously for Carol fans, because Carol's not appearing in anything Walking Dead related that we know of this year, right? So for a Carol appearance at the very end, I think that would be really awesome. It would be really cool to actually see Morgan return with some Fear characters and then show up to the gates of Alexandria or the Commonwealth. Maybe it's a different set or whatever. But he returns and Carol's there, right? I think that would just be so epic. I think people would be freaking out over that because then Morgan's there. And then they could sort of announce a spinoff maybe with Morgan and Carol. I think that'd be really good. I mean, yeah, Carol's going to probably be in the Daryl show. I think that also makes a lot of sense. But you could also do a Carol and Morgan spinoff. Like, yeah, I didn't like their story too much in season 7 and 8. Well, actually, I was okay with it in season 7. I just got very frustrated with it in season 8 because they just did a reversal of the stories, right? In season 7, Carol was the one who didn't really want to kill anyone. And Morgan was more, like, we have to kill people. And then it was basically like it was just reversed in season 8 and it didn't really go anywhere, right? So to me, I think that, well, again, that kind of goes back to a debate I've always had since those seasons aired, which was I think Morgan should have died in All Out War instead of Carl, because Morgan's whole thing was we can't kill, right? If he would have died in the season 8 season 8 mid-season finale, then that would have affected Rick so much that the whole thing of my mercy prevails over my wrath, if, say, they gave that line to Morgan, right? And Morgan learned that line, say, from Eastman or something like that, that would hold so much more weight because it's the end of this huge war here. It's the end of an era, and Morgan's death really, it matters so much, especially to Rick. And that's why, because back then Morgan wasn't killing anyone, right? Like he really tried to not do that. For Rick to be like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to spare his life, like Negan's life, and we're just going to put him in a cell or something like that. Like, I think that works so much better than Carl's death and what that did, because that really messed up a lot of stuff for season 9 and 10 and the Whisper arc and everything else, right? Regardless, though, I mean, that's sort of, I can make a video on that some other day, I'm sure. I mean, we've talked about that a lot, but back to Fear the Walking Dead, I think that the familiar faces, I do think it has to do with The Walking Dead. There is another option, though, obviously, which is Alicia. Could that be Alicia's return? I don't want it to be, because the thing about it being Alicia's return is, I mean, she just left the show. And then if she comes back, say, in the season 8 finale, and there's this reunion with her mom, it's going to be so rushed. Like, that's the thing. I worry about the storytelling in the Walking Dead universe as it pertains to a lot of these bigger moments, because just based off of, the last couple of seasons here, these moments that were really heavily treasured and, deserved, I would say, I think back in the earlier seasons were now all of a sudden, and still to this day, are being rushed, right? Like, we're just getting these random moments and they're not happening as fans have pictured it, or it just doesn't feel as deserved. And so much of that you could see in season 11. Like, there were so many big moments that were just rushed right through just so they can get to certain parts of the story, right? And I do understand a part of it too, because, in terms of what Gimple and Angela Kang had to go through there in the final season, especially season 10, like, if you do look at season 9 and 10, they're actually, I would say, pacing wise, it is handled pretty well. Like, I actually do really like season 9 and 10. Season 10, you could argue the first half, it is very slow, but that's like typical Walking Dead from like the first couple of seasons. season 11 is where things really get rushed. But again, they didn't know that the show was ending, right? So yeah, anyways, I could really ramble on about The Walking Dead forever. There's so many different topics that I'm like, I could really just like talk about this and really go into depth about that. Honestly, I should just do a Walking Dead podcast or something on Spotify and just like give my thoughts on certain topics, but do it long form where I can talk about it for like an hour, or maybe I can talk about it with somebody else sort of thing. Just cause like, yeah. And honestly, that could be a lot of fun, especially if I do it like a limited series type thing. Do like 10 episodes of something. I don't know. Again, I'm just rambling here. But anyways, I do think that the Fear the Walking Dead finale, I think it's going to relate to Alexandria and Morgan in some way returning back home with some other characters, and I think it's going to be amazing and just absolutely beautiful. I think it's going to be the first time where we really see our characters connect with the Walking Dead storyline, and I think it would be, honestly, like, I think it would be really smart if they connected it to some of the later storylines, right? Because The Walking Dead, it ended with a year time jump, and then we saw Daryl and everyone else leave sort of thing. If Morgan returned, say, a couple of months or maybe even a year after that, then, you know, it fills in some of the mystery there, because with these spin-offs, like with Dead City, the Daryl Dixon spin-off, they're taking place a couple of years later after the finale. Like in the finale's last 20 minutes, they jump forward a year, right? Well, these spin-offs are taking place a couple of years after that. So we're doing a lot of time jumps here. We're probably closer to 15 years into the apocalypse, like 14 to 15 years. And like, there's a couple of years there where, you know, I wonder what our characters have went through. There's going to be some really interesting character building stuff there. Some characters may have just relaxed and lived life for those couple of years. Like, there's a lot of really interesting things there that I do want to see how they handle. And Morgan just showing up somewhere around there, I think would be a lot of fun. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Which characters do you think he's referring to when he says that there's going to be a few other familiar faces? Do you think it's Alicia, or do you think it's Walking Dead characters? Or is it possibly other characters from the past of The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, like Troy? You know, I know that rumor's been around for a while. Or what about Walker? He was one of my favorite characters on the show. So, I mean, maybe it's him. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.